rock bands, different styles, heavy metal, punk, stuff like that. I basically grew up listening to my dad's music, which is like classic rock, heavy metal, which was like something I found on my
Mhm.
own, and hip hop, which is something that that's basically,
Our
we're the same
generation,
age as
yeah.
hip hop, right?
Today's guest is Dave Acosta, also known to many as Chuy Vuitton, a creative strategist, PR professional, DJ, and music journalist who has spent many years shaping culture both behind the scenes and on the stage. Dave is the founder of Ace Comms Consulting, where he helps brands and creatives tell better stories using strategic communication and public relations. He's also the force behind Sound and Soul Presents, a platform focused on curating events that celebrate music, culture, and community. Here in El Paso, many people know Dave as the co-creator of the R&B Brunch, a vibrant event that blends music, nostalgia, and connection, proving that thoughtful experiences can bring a city together in powerful ways. Across PR, journalism, DJing, and event production, Dave operates at the intersection of creativity and strategy. His work reflects a deep understanding of how culture moves, how communities connect, and how creative ideas turn into real world experiences. Today, we're talking about creativity, entrepreneurship, identity and culture, the realities of burnout in creative industries, navigating imposter syndrome, and what it takes to keep building meaningful work in a city like El Paso. I'm your host, Charbon Hales, and this is Light, Life, and Limitations, a podcast where creativity meets reality.
When the world feels out of frame, every thought, every fear, every revelation, I find my way through the quiet flame, lighting life in all the limitations.
Welcome, Dave. Or as I like to call
Hi,
you,
thanks for having
Chuy,
me.
Chuy Vuitton,
Yeah, you can call
my
me
DJ
whichever.
tutor. So, oh, my eyes burning. My eyes are burning from this light. It's like so bright. um, but yeah, I have my controller right there that I need to be practicing with.
Yes, I wanna see you on there,
But
so you can give us a guest set at the brunch someday.
oh, I don't know about that. But that is how I met Dave. I actually met you via Ray Ruckus, who was a previous guest on the podcast. I think I just randomly posted one day, I want to learn how to DJ. And he's like, check out my boy Chuy Vuitton. He does lessons. So I hit you up for a lesson and it was so much fun. So I definitely
Ray seems to be pretty good at
yes,
connecting
he
people.
is definitely I call him my personal network for anything in El Paso. Like he's like my yellow pages.
Yep. Mhm.
Um But definitely, like, give us a little bit of background on, um, growing you 'cause you're born and raised El Paso, right?
I was actually born in San Diego, but my family moved back
Oh,
when I
okay.
was 1. They're
Yeah,
from
so
El
give us a little
Paso.
background on your, like, your
Um,
upbringing in El Paso, how you got into music and DJing.
um, Growing up in El Paso was a very different place when I was
Mhm.
growing up. Um, to be honest with you, it was, and I grew up in Central El Paso, which is, um, one of the not the poorest areas, but, it's kind of lower
Yeah.
middle to then going down into the poverty levels depending on where you grew up. But I went to Austin High School, um, in the '90s, not to date myself. Um, but yeah, like in the '90s back when, I mean, there was a lot of
Yeah,
gang
yeah.
culture in the '90s in El Paso, in the '80s and '90s. Even back in elementary school, there was already kids and gangs and stuff like that where I grew up. So I grew up kind of in that environment, but I also grew up, um, for the most part until high school in a two-parent household and, with my grandparents around. So my grandparents were also a big influence on me.
Mhm.
Um, be Obviously growing up back in that generation, both of your probably still today, but I think was more pronounced back then where both parents had to work. So, it was always the grandparents that they had to
Mm.
fall back on. So my grandparents were always a big influence for me. And yeah, I mean, like I said, El Paso was just a very different place back then. There was even a lot of racial tension between Mexicans and
Mm.
blacks, where I went to school because we were a feeder school for Fort Bliss for all the military kids, and there was always that tension there between the Mexicans and the
Mm.
blacks. So it was just it was just another different
Yeah.
time, I guess you could say. You know what I mean? Um, but I was always into music since I was a little kid because of my father mostly. He was into rock and roll and stuff like that. And I always wanted to play guitar and be in a band, and my dad bought me my first guitar when I was in, like, 8th
Nice.
grade, around the time that my parents split up. Um, so I just played in a lot of rock bands, different styles, heavy metal, punk, stuff like that. I basically grew up listening to my dad's music, which is, like, classic rock, heavy metal, which was, like, something I found on my
Mhm.
own, and hip hop, which is something that we all that's basically
Our
we're the same
generation,
age as
yeah.
hip hop, right? Yeah. So that was it for and punk rock and to me, even at that age, I could see a connection between punk rock and hip
Mhm.
hop, like, bands like Public Enemy and then bands like Dead Kennedys, which were both, like, very
Mhm.
anti-establishment, so kinda stuff like that, and I think that to this day still has a big influence on me. Even I remember when the Malcolm X movie came out and Spike Lee, said that, um, people, especially Black people, should, boycott work that day and go watch Malcolm X, and I ditched school to go watch Malcolm even though I'm not Black, but I was like, yeah, I had already read his autobiography and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So, I mean, all that stuff from the '90s, Public
Yeah.
Enemy, Spike Lee movies, punk rock was, like, a big influence on me still to this day, maybe more in subtle ways now,
Yeah,
but yeah,
it was
that was a
kind
long
of a
answer.
similar experience for myself. So my dad was my musical influence as well. He grew up in the era of Jimi Hendrix and,
Mhm,
so a lot of my exposure to rock came through him, but he was also very much a lover of just world music in general. So a lot of, like, African music, like, listening to, like, Lady Smith, Black Mambaza. Um, I
mm.
remember people I went to school with thought we were Hispanic because he would, like, blast Santana, like, driving around the neighborhood, and they were like, "Isn't your dad Puerto Rican?" I'm like, "No." They were like, "Well, why is he always listening to Spanish music?" I'm like, "'Cause he likes it." But, like Sting, Peter Gabriel, U2, that's all
Yeah.
the stuff that I grew up listening to. But then my sister was the influence for, my love of hip hop and R&B, which, we'll get into the whole R&B brunch because like it's so nostalgic and it just takes me back to my club days, being at the R&B brunch. But speaking of
My dad was also very into Jimi Hendrix as
mhm,
also, and it's funny because he got me when I discovered Prince,
mm,
I just thought Prince was, like, the most amazing musician when I was a little kid. Like, it was just very intriguing because it's like, he was so
yeah,
different from everybody, you know? And I was a little kid when Purple
mhm,
Rain came out, and, I think I already liked Prince, but my dad we went to go see a movie one time, and back then you could go to the movies for a
yes.
dollar. That's another I'm aging myself kinda thing. And we went to I don't remember the movie that we went to see, but afterwards, this is the type of guy my dad was, he was like, "Let's sneak into this other movie," and we went to go
Yeah,
see
my
Purple
dad was the
Rain,
same way.
and and, oh my god, that movie just blew
Mhm.
my I was, like, in 4th grade, it's a very sexual movie. I think that may be part of what got my interest going a little bit, but it was like, "What the hell is this?" I already knew who Prince was, but I was like, this is the
Yeah.
shit." I don't know if
No,
I
you
can
can.
curse on here, but, um, and, um and my dad was like, "Oh, he reminds me of Jimi Hendrix because the
Mhm.
guitar playing and stuff like that,"
Yeah,
so I
my
remember that.
my sister
Another
was
funny story about my dad when you're talking about, people thinking that you guys were Hispanic, when around the time that I started high school, my dad moved to
mm,
Oakland, and, and we were supposed to all move out there, but it didn't happen at the time, and, one day my dad liked to listen to
mhm.
jazz also. So we lived in this little apartment, and my dad was outside grilling some food, and he had some wine, and he's listening to jazz. And, our neighbor, who was an African American guy, black guy, he looks at my dad and he goes, "Oh, y'all some sophisticated Mexicans." And my dad goes he's drinking wine, he goes, "Yeah, we drink Champipple." I don't know you ever saw Sanford and Son? He used to mix Sprite with Ripple and call it
Pitbull.
Champipple. And from then on, they were like the best of friends. Like they,
Yeah.
my dad was like, "Oh," I mean, the neighbor was like, "This Mexican guy is funny."
You brought back a core memory for me because my sister was in love with Prince, and I remember so we when my dad,
Mm,
was in the military when we lived in Germany, My sister had a poster. Well, no, I think she had a Thriller poster over her bed, and it was like giving me nightmares. So they made her take it down, but then she had a Prince poster, and like I just remember being like in love with this poster. I had not seen Purple Rain. I was very small, but but I'm like, this man was just so beautiful. But I distinctly remember, and I don't remember a whole lot from Germany 'cause I was very small, but, I distinctly remember that Prince poster 'cause, Prince and Michael Jackson, shout out to
Yeah, I
Michael
mean,
Jackson, were
yeah, Prince and Michael Jackson
are
were
huge
huge,
influences back then,
back
yeah.
yeah, same, and, like, um I think the other thing that kept me so interested in Prince, and I stayed with into Prince even through being into heavy metal and all
Mhm,
this other stuff. A lot of my friends were like, Prince, like, at that time, back in the 80s and 90s, the clothes you wore symbolized what you wore, what you were as a person. The music you
mhm,
listen to, this is what you listen to. You don't listen to rap, you don't listen to other. It was like if you listen to heavy metal, this is what you listen to. And I was always into different things. But I think one of the reasons is because like, my uncle also was a huge influence because he was a big record collector,
mhm.
vinyl record collector back then, and he had all the Prince records, and I would always give him tapes to record them for me, and he would not because he was like, "They're too nasty." Like, he would tell me that he would record them, and then he would never do it, and then I would tell my mom, "My uncle hasn't given me my tapes," and he was like,
Not yet,
It's
not
too
yet.
nasty for a little kid." Like, yeah, and I was like, I had to literally tape the songs when it came out on HBO. When Purple Rain came out on HBO, I put the stereo, my little tape player, up to the TV and recorded all the
Yeah,
songs
oh my
that way.
gosh.
That's how that's how I
Gen
had the
Z is
songs.
listening to this
And he
like,
even
What's a tape player?"
yeah, yeah, exactly. And Prince even came to, to Las Cruces for the Purple
Mm.
Rain tour, and I begged my uncle to take me, and he would not take me. He was like,
No,
"No,
you
you're too
cannot
young
be
for that."
there. Not for that. So, I mean, clearly you have a love of R&B. So,
Mhm.
like, when it comes to building an event like the R&B Brunch, how did that concept first come about?
I mean, I can't really take credit for that for the concept. You know, R&B. I never really thought about it, but I guess it does go all the way back to Michael Jackson and Prince for me. Like those are two big musical influences on me. Even like I said, through other phases of my musical
Mhm,
journey as a fan. And I think that But oh, to go back to where the concept came from, it was really one of my I have 2 partners in the R&B
mhm,
brunch and Sound and Soul. It's not just me. So it's Julio, Vega and Saul Rodriguez, DJ, um, Jeezy Vega and Super Soul. And Julio a few years ago, we met through DJing. He was more of like at the time, more of a regular
mhm,
at the bar where I was DJing at. And him and his crew, they really liked the music I played because I did play not just hip hop and top 40. I played a lot of
mhm,
R&B. Um, and so we got to be friends through that. And when he started DJing, he wanted to start like he really always wanted to have an R&B party, but it was his birthday one year and he said, I'm going to just have an R&B party on my own and see just to have it for
mhm.
my birthday. So we did it and it was on a Sunday and it was nothing like it is now, but it was decent for the bar that we
Mhm.
were at. It was decent sized and they asked us if we wanted to keep doing it, and we just put we all the 3 of us put all of our effort into it once we started, like, the in the many years that I've been DJing, I have tried with different, other little DJ crews that I've been a
Mhm.
part of to start some type of regular party that wasn't just a every Friday kinda thing where,
Yeah.
residency type of DJ thing, but an actual
Mhm.
curated party, and they never last because of you just can't find the
Yeah.
consistency, people aren't consistent, and it takes everyone to be consistent to make
Yes.
it happen, and we just got lucky that all 3 of us at the right time had the time and the, well, in Mexican in Spanish, we say ganas,
Mm, I
to
think I
do
know what
it.
you mean.
I don't know how you say it in English, like,
Yeah.
we all wanted to do it, and we all put
Mhm.
everything into it, and, yeah, it's just grown from there, and now this year will be our 4th anniversary,
Yeah.
so
I mean, I can tell just in, the 3 months that I've been involved, how passionate you all are about the event and making it. Because the thing is, like, I've been part of, like, collectives back when I was in Philly, that did events and things like that, um, and events that work are ones where the organizers are very passionate about the experience for the event goers
Yep.
and are not just out there trying to make money, right? I mean, obviously making money is a good benefit, but if you're really focused on creating this experience for the people coming to the event, that's what makes the impact. And then of course, like you said, the consistency because that's also important. If it's not
Yep.
consistent, then you lose your fan base, right? And the thing is, like, everybody knows where they're gonna be every 3rd Sunday of the month? Yeah, so it's
Right.
like, I've been telling people have been trying to book me, I'm like, "Nah, sorry, I got somewhere to be on that day."
And sometimes it's also about knowing when to say
Mhm,
no, because, the bar that we started off at was really struggling to stay in business
mm.
at the time. And, the first couple of events that we had did so well that they put a lot of pressure on us to do it every week, every
Ooh,
Sunday. And, me with my experience, I told the other guys, I just don't think that doing it every
mhm,
week, it will go well. We will make
yeah,
money every week. People will come, but will we be doing it in a year? Will we be doing it in 2 years? Whereas if we keep it scarce, keep it an event that people want to go to and plan their weekend around every month, we have a better chance of longevity, and in the long run, we make more money that way. And again, it's not all about money either. It's about having a good
mhm.
event that people have a good time at, and that we can keep going for as long as we
Now
feel
let's talk
like.
more about that because what you just talked about, that it was a strategy, right? You are a strategist, you, founded your company, AceCom Consulting. So
Yes.
you do.
Celebrating a year
Yes,
this month.
congratulations. I think you were just starting out when I
Thank you.
first met you. It was, about a year
Mhm.
ago. Um, so let's talk about a little bit about that and what you do as a communications consultant, on the PR and strategy side for you work with, like, entrepreneurs and, small brands and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I was working for about 6 years for another PR, a boutique PR firm here in El Paso. After leaving journalism, I was in journalism for about another 6 to 8 years. Um, and I moved over to PR, and I was working for a local firm that was owned by someone who I had known for many years, another entrepreneur here, Marina Montes Weiss. Um, and it was really kind of like, at the time when I started, it was like my dream job, like, working with local businesses and local brands to kind of just tell their
Mhm,
story, and show just kind of what a great place El Paso is and has the potential to be. Um, and also helping new brands that aren't from El Paso come in and introduce themselves to our community in the right
mhm,
way. Um, because we are such a different market from a lot of other places. And so I really love that job, but unfortunately, last year around this time, they had to declare bankruptcy and go out of business. And it was a thriving business, but a lot of things happened with the federal government freezing
mhm,
funds and stuff like that. And a lot of the projects we were working on at the time were based on federal
mhm,
funding and state funding, because we had a lot of transportation clients and
mm,
stuff like that, engineering firms and things. So yeah, unfortunately that happened, but fortunately enough for me, um, I I was one of the leads as far as client
mhm,
relations. In addition to all my PR responsibilities, and a handful of the clients that I was working with, um, asked me if I would stay on as a contractor, um, because we were in the middle of, you know, various projects that were ongoing and that they needed to keep going on. They didn't have time to find another firm to
mhm,
help them. So I said yes at the time, but I didn't know for sure what I wanted
mhm,
to do. I thought, well, this will hold me over until either I make a decision or I find another job, really. Um, but it just seemed like the universe kept making the decisions for me in a way, same thing that happened and I'm not a religious person or even really a spiritual person to speak of, but I feel like it just happens to me every time where when I graduated from college when I was
Mhm.
35. Okay. I was already older when I graduated from college, and that's when I got my first real job in journalism. And it was like I wanted to leave. My plan was to leave El
Mhm.
Paso as soon as I graduated, but I could not. But I didn't want to go somewhere smaller than
Mhm.
El Paso. And at the time, it was very hard to find journalism jobs in a larger
Yeah.
market. It was easier to go to a smaller market and work your way up. And I was like, I'm already 35. I don't have time to work my way up. Luckily enough, I found a job here at the El Paso Times within 2 or 3 months of
Mhm.
graduating, just through my network, just through the people that I
Mhm.
already knew. Um, and so it just kind of, I don't like to say fell in my lap because I think that, and people always say, "Oh, would tell me you're so lucky you found a job right away." It's not luck. It's the work that you
Yeah.
already did that you maybe didn't even
What
realize
they
that you were
say is,
doing.
luck
Um,
preparation plus opportunity equals luck. Yeah.
is luck. Yes, exactly. And I really, when I had never even heard that phrase until it started happening to me, and it
Mhm.
clicked like, yes, that is what
Yeah.
luck is, and even at the time, and then I was at El Paso Times for so long, and obviously journalism is going was going through big changes. A lot of people were getting laid
Mhm.
off, and I could see the writing on the wall, like I'm gonna get laid off
Mhm.
eventually. I'm not gonna be here forever. I think the El Paso Times now has maybe 4 or 5 people on staff, and when I got there, there was probably
Oh,
50.
wow.
Yeah, and so I just started. I literally I knew that Marina knew a lot of people who are in business and stuff like that, and I just literally one day I just texted her. I hadn't even talked to her in a while, and I just texted her, "Hey, um, I'm just on the lookout for a job. If you hear about
Mhm.
anything, let me know." And she said, "I might have something for you. Give me some time." And a few months later, she asked me if I would go over to her firm, and I said
Nice.
yes right away. So, like I said, it's just like the right things tend to happen at the
Mhm.
right time for you, you know? And just like with this, it was like, what am I gonna do? But at the same time, I think in the past, I would have been pretty panicked, and as well as maybe depressed, a little
Mhm.
anxious. But this time, I just felt like, you know what, this is what was going to happen at this time, and and now it's just time for what's next. And it all just fell into my lap again like that. I had clients that wanted to work right away. I started billing within the next 6 to 8 weeks. I was already billing 3 clients, and I said, "Well, I guess I better get an LLC and start getting my taxes together for next
Mhm.
year." And yeah, it just went from there.
Nice. See, when it's meant for you, it'll happen. That's the
Yep.
focus I've kinda been on in life right now. But,
Mhm.
so as both a creative and an entrepreneur, what are some misconceptions you think people might have about entrepreneurship and being in the creative industry?
Misconceptions. Well, for me, one of the biggest misconceptions, since I'm a one man show right now still, and I work from home. I mean, one of the biggest misconceptions is that I get is that I always have free time. People are like, "Can you hang out?" I'm like, "No, I'm working." Well, no, you don't. You're not. What do you mean? I'm like, I
But you're
have a
your own
job. I
boss, you
do
can
have a
do it.
job.
No, I still have to do my work.
Yeah, I still have
Mhm,
deadlines. I still have meetings all day, and it's just me. I can't ask anyone. I mean, I have other partners I work with for video and different stuff
mhm.
like that. But when it comes to some of the work, I still got to do the
Yeah.
work. So
All the final result and the final end product relies on you, right?
yeah,
So even if you're outsourcing different parts, the final deliverables have to come through you. So, yeah,
yeah. And then the other misconception for me is because I do promote the DJ stuff a lot more than I do my actual business, Ace. I actually haven't even posted on the Ace Instagram account in several months because I'm just so busy
mhm,
juggling everything. Um, so a lot of even my mom the other day thought that I was only
mm.
DJing. right now. She was like, "So, how much are you working? And, what's going on?" I was like, "No, I'm still working. I just,
Yeah.
She's like, "I thought you were
You need
only
a social
DJing."
media
I'm
intern. If anybody's listening, if you wanna be a social media intern for Ace Comms
Yes.
Consulting,
Mhm.
hit up, the
Exactly.
account. Um, but this is something I've noticed, having moved here from Philly. I've been here now for 2.5 years, almost 3, is that El Paso has a very, like, unique creative community, and it's a very welcoming creative community, in my experience. So, what are some opportunities here that you see that you think others might overlook?
Um, what I really picked up on from doing the brunch is that, um, there really is a lack of things to do that relate to the African American culture, to Black people here. Um, and that's not to say that Black people are like totally different things than
Mhm,
everybody else, but there are certain specific things that relate more to that
mhm,
culture. We don't get a lot of Black comedians that come
mm,
through town. We don't get a lot of R&B or hip hop artists that come to
mhm,
town. Um, if you go just up 4 hours up the road to Albuquerque, you see way more hip hop concerts and
mm,
events up there than you
yeah,
do here. And we have one of the biggest military bases in the
mhm,
city. One of the comments that we get a lot on our social media when we post videos is from former military who used to live in El
mhm.
Paso. It'll be like, there's more Black people in El Paso? Where was this event when I lived in El Paso? Is every Black person in El Paso at this event? And these are coming from other African Americans that
Mhm,
are saying this, and it's like, I just think that it's a really untapped
mhm.
market in this city,
Yeah, and it's probably one
when
of the
if you
first
wanna
events that
look at
I've
it like
been
that.
to that is definitely, a very diverse event, um, of
Mhm.
people who are attending, right? You hear R&B Brunch, your expectation is you're gonna get there is gonna be predominantly Black people, but everybody loves R&B, right?
Yep.
And I just love the community and the diversity at the event and just everybody just having a good time together, 'cause, some events I've been to or some parties I've been to, um it's not a whole lot of us there, and I don't know if that's, like, a marketing
Yep.
thing or if it's a location thing, but I will say that the R&B Brunch does a very good job of attracting people, and it's the other thing is there's a wide range of, like, age groups there, right? Um, so,
Mhm.
there's the old head millennials like
That's
us, but then there's I had to get a
Yep.
Gen Zer to help me with Apple Pay who was buying pictures in the photo booth. He's like, "Can I pay you Apple Pay?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I need you to help me because I don't know how to use." Um, so that definitely made me feel like a geriatric
It's
millennial in that
definitely
moment. Um,
it's definitely, it's definitely intentional, the
mhm,
mix that we have. It's definitely one of my biggest, theories as far as nightlife goes is that, well, first of all, let me just say, when you go to a bar or club in El
mhm,
Paso, one of the reasons that you don't see, that many Black people in one place is a little bit of the
mhm,
racism that is still present in this city. Like I said, back in when I was a kid, there was a lot of racial tension between Mexicans and Blacks. And, just as a DJ, I've had bar owners, I've even had bar patrons tell me, "You're playing
oh,
too much
wow.
hip hop." You know, the crowd's getting a little
Mhm,
rough, or stuff like that. Just comments, "Hey, tone it down a little bit," you know. Um, but one of my biggest theories has always been that, and because some of the bars that are more catered to African Americans and especially soldiers
mhm,
here in El Paso, they tend to get a bad
mm,
rep, because things happen, and especially a lot of those bars tend to be 18
yeah,
and up, and though it's usually those 18 and up bars that have the
have
have the
bad
problem.
fights
So
and stuff,
that's one of the problems right there, no matter
yeah.
what race
Mhm,
you are. And then secondly, my biggest thing is I think that if you get one of too many of the same type of people in
Yeah.
one place, you're asking for problems that
Mhm.
way. It's like it's like, when you're with
Yeah.
family versus when you have
Mm.
guests at your house, you know? When you have guests at your house, you're
Everybody's
on
on
your
good
best
behavior, yeah.
behavior on yeah, you're not trying to act a fool in front of people that you're not used to
Mhm.
being around, and I think that leads to a better vibe, and that attracts more people, and people see like, oh, it's even one of the other bars that I tend to go to a lot, it's a mix of straight
Mhm.
and gay, and people love
Yeah.
it there, because it's safe for everybody, and as soon as you see that mixed crowd of whatever the
Yeah.
mix is, Mexican, black, white, gay, straight, whatever that mix is, it just feels safer because I think people just tend to
Yeah.
behave better in those environments. So,
I
yeah.
love that, you're making it like, you're bringing back, like, memories and stuff of, like, my club days in Philly, and it was like, there was a club that was everybody that we all went to, and it was, like, me, it was some, like, my white friends from college, my black friends from high school, and it was just everybody was together in this one space, and like you said, it was always a vibe and, no drama or anything because, um, you know but if I went to, like, the hood club, it's like, "Okay, are we gonna get shot tonight?" So, um,
Right.
yeah.
And I've DJ'd at hood clubs too, and it's fun. I like,
Mhm.
even at my age, every now and then I like a good
Oh,
little
yeah.
ratchet party,
Yeah. I had a
it's
friend who used
fun.
to take me to some
Um,
places, and, like, when I got older and realized exactly where we were, I'm like, why did you have me there?" I was just tagging along, and I was just like, "Okay, I'll come." But what another thing I just wanna say I love about the R&B brunch is that, like, I'm watching this, they're kids to me, but, watching these young people sing these throwback songs word for word, right? And it's like,
yeah,
yes, like, keep these
surprised.
songs alive, right? Pass along the recipes, as they say, because
Yep.
there's some kids I remember my younger cousin didn't know who Jodeci was, and it, like, hurt my millennial soul.
That hurts my soul. I always say that Jodeci was the best band of the '90s, better than Nirvana,
You need to find a way to do
who
A
people
Jodeci
claim is the
Nirvana,
best band.
mashup. Let's see if we can make that work.
Mhm.
Um, so, um, what does it mean, like, to you personally to create these spaces where people feel connected through music?
For me personally, like I said, because of what I grew up around, and the influences on me, it means a lot. I sometimes I sit back once the day's gotten going and there's people there and everybody's vibing, sometimes I'll just stand in the back and look at people having a good
Mhm.
time, and I just think, "Damn, man, like, we did it, like, we did it again." And, um, it just feels good to see people coming together, enjoying music, singing
Mhm.
along, and like you said, different ages, different age groups, different races, different styles, but everyone is just vibing out and having a good time, and it makes me feel like even though even though it's such a big success, I would say we're still a little bit under the radar of like the mainstream kind of El
Mhm.
Paso thing. So I just feel like it makes me feel like we've built our own little
Like club,
society.
yeah, society. I like that. The
Yeah,
R&B Brunch
and it's like
Society.
if
You gotta get
you
shirt you
know
gotta
kind
put
of
that on a
thing.
shirt now,
Mhm.
right? R&B Brunch Society.
Like we built our own little culture,
Mhm.
and yeah, it just feels good. It feels like I used to get anxiety when I used to have a Friday night that was really popular
Mhm.
downtown. We would have a line every week to get in, and I used to get it after a while. It set in like, oh my god, there's people
Um,
relying on me as the DJ and the staff as well. But just for me personally as the DJ, they're relying on me to have a good
mhm.
time on their Friday night. They decided to come here on a Friday night and try to have a good time, and it's on me every week to make sure that that happens for them with the
Mhm.
music. Whether the drinks are good or whatever, but the music has to be right
Yeah.
every week. And I used when that set into me, at the first time, it really freaked me out, because that was one of the best nights that I've ever
Mhm.
DJ'd at, and that was only me. I was the only DJ on that night, and it was just like it just felt like a lot. And now to have this, and it's an even bigger
Mhm.
crowd. Luckily, I have a cool
Yeah.
team around me, to support and take the lead on other things. You know, we all play
Yeah.
our role. Like
Mhm.
I do all the marketing stuff, as far as like back end placing the ads, making sure all the targeting is right, making sure the timing is right for all the social media that
Mhm.
we do. Anything like that, I take care of. Julio is the creative guy. He does all the video, all the
Mm.
photos, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, I see him walking
edits
around with
and
the
shoots
camera and
and
stuff.
everything. Yeah, he's in between
Yeah.
DJ sets. And then Saul is more the
Mhm.
businessman, he's the one that negotiates with the
Mhm.
bars and goes and settles up at the end of
Yeah.
the night and makes sure that we get paid
Clears
right
everybody out.
and make sure that we're treated fairly.
You ain't got to go home,
Yeah.
but y'all gotta
And
get
he
out of
also
here.
plays yeah, he also plays kind of the host and makes sure, um, the table he knows all the
Mhm.
regulars, he takes care of the people who buy bottles and knows where they wanna be
Mhm.
sat and all that stuff and knows their
Nice.
names, and, I don't even know
Yeah.
half the people. I know the faces, but I don't know names, and I'm just,
Yeah, and that's what I
he's the one
that's
that
what
knows
I
all that. So
like about what y'all do, because like I said, y'all make it an experience. So it's like if you're a regular, like you said, they have the same table. If you know every time you go in there, you're gonna get that experience, then it ups the level of it. Um, but let's I just wanna, rewind a little bit to what you were talking about with your Friday night event and how once it got really popular, that's when you started to feel the pressure of like, you know, uh, like, "Can I do this?" Right? Because this is a theme I've
yeah.
noticed that it's been coming up in the conversations across multiple podcasts, is that people they didn't feel the imposter syndrome in the beginning when they were starting, they felt it when they were at the precipice of, like, really becoming successful at it,
Yeah.
then that's when it was like, "Whoa, can I do it?" Because even I've had those types of moments where I've, like, gotten, an inquiry for, like, a really big opportunity, and I'm just like, "Me? Like,
Mhm.
you want me to photograph this?" Um
I'm going through that right now with Ace, and I'm glad that you related it back to that for me because I wouldn't have made the
Mhm,
connection myself. I really need to probably consider that a little bit more because I have been, picking up new projects here
mhm.
lately, and they're all kinda confluating and coming together at the same time, and again, it's just me, and I'm like, "A, why are these people relying on me to do this job for them?" Even though I know
Mhm.
why,
Yeah,
because I can do it. Um, but why are they coming to me? Why are they relying on me? Can I do it? Am I the right person? Do I know how to do this? Am I gonna drop the ball? Uh, you know, I don't have before I had 2 or 3 bosses
mhm.
at the old shop, and now again it's just me. I don't have anyone to guide me if I think I'm going the
Yeah.
wrong way. I have to really think things through and really make sure I'm doing everything the correct way and making my deadlines and
Mhm.
all that. And there is that little bit of doubt that starts to
Yeah.
creep in, even though like, I see the money I'm making, and it's not all about money, but you
Yeah.
gotta live. You gotta pay your bills, and it's like almost the same feeling that I had at that time as a DJ of can I do this every week? Can I keep
Yeah.
continuing to do this at the level that I know I'm capable of
See, and that's
doing
it
it?
right there. You said, "I know I'm capable of doing it," and that's the thing I've
Mhm,
had to kind of, retrain my brain to say,
mhm.
I say it out loud in third person, "I'm like, Shafine, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing." So, it's like, stop, like,
Yeah,
feeling overwhelmed by a big opportunity. Like, you've been doing this for a long time, you do it every day, you know what you're doing. So, I just wanna say to you, Dave, you know what you're
right.
doing, and you deserve all of those
Thank
opportunities.
you.
They're coming to you because they know that you know what you're doing. Um but speaking about that, because you have, like, your DJing stuff, your event curation, plus your business and your consulting. So, how do you, um, kind of manage all of your creative projects and but knowing when to slow down, right? Because right now you had mentioned that it's like you have all these opportunities coming in at once. How do you know when, like, you're kind of approaching maybe a little bit of burnout and knowing when to kind of maybe say no to some stuff or postpone some things?
You know what? I don't think I have reached that level of self-awareness yet. I've gone through burnout before in DJing, I've gone through burnout before in
Mhm,
PR, um, and it's not something that I ever want to go through
mhm,
again, but at the same time, this is something that I think maybe a lot of people might relate to is, growing up not we weren't poor growing up by any means, you know, we never wondered where our next meal was gonna happen or if we were gonna get kicked out of our house or anything like that, but we weren't rich, and growing up, not getting to have all the things that you
mhm,
wanted, all you know, um, and and then becoming an adult and not coming from the type of family that is gonna support you monetarily well into your 20s or even 30s for
mhm,
some people, having to go out and do it on your own, and also me, just the type of personality I am that I don't want to ask for help. I don't like to
mm,
ask for help, especially from my mom, because she already did so much for us, um, that 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 anxiety of not of wanting to have enough in your bank account
mhm,
every month to pay for all your bills and do everything that you wanna do, that anxiety is greater to me than worrying about
mhm,
burning out. Like, I'll push myself to the point of burnout, if I let myself. But the biggest thing that you need to have and do is, um, have some type of
mhm.
outlet, some type of
Yes.
hobby, something. And one of the problems that we have right now, though, is everybody has this thing of trying to monetize their hobby, and that's what DJing for me became. You know, it started off as a hobby, and then it became something I started making money
Mhm,
off of, and then it left. It was no longer a hobby
mm,
anymore. But I'm lucky now that I know I don't have to DJ every week to pay my bills. You know, and I don't have to DJ 2 or 3 times a week to pay
mm,
my bills. I can DJ once a month at this point if I really want to. Um, and I'm very lucky to and blessed to have that. Um, so I do still in a way have DJing as a hobby, and my hobby is doing the streaming
oh, nice.
DJing, you know,
Yeah.
online and making videos for social media and stuff like that. That's my hobby when it comes to DJing. And in a way, it was the pandemic that kinda influenced
Mhm,
me on that, because when the pandemic happened, at that point, I was like, "You know what? After once everything opens up, I'm not going back to DJing in bars." And I had spent money to set up my little home studio, you know, invested in lights and
mhm.
cameras and all this other stuff, better equipment, and I just thought, "Oh, I'm gonna be a Twitch DJ. I'm just gonna DJ on Twitch from now on. Maybe I'll DJ out at my favorite bar once a month or every other month or something like that, but I'm not gonna be doing any more weeklies or
Mhm,
anything like that." And it's really the R&B Brunch that kind of brought me back.
mm.
So I have to give more credit to Saul and Julio for that, for including me in that. I was the last DJ to
Oh,
join the
okay.
brunch, so, I mean, we all started on the very first one, but they were already planning it, and they asked me to
Nice.
come in. And yeah, once that happened and I started feeling a little bit better again of going out and DJing, and then the popularity started getting all of us more DJ gigs, and it was just, well, you know, the money's there, might as
Yeah.
well make it, so,
Sometimes you have to take a
but
step back from it. Yeah, because 'cause
yeah,
I've done that a
exactly.
couple times with photography where it's like the passion I start losing the passion for it, and and it starts
Mhm.
feeling more like a burden than like, a passion.
Yeah.
Um
And I went through it with PR too, like the burnout, at one point, the business that I was working for had gotten so diverse in the types of clients that we
Mhm,
were getting, but it had moved a little bit away from the local PR stuff that we had
mhm,
been working on. So I was really the only after a certain point, I was really the only true PR person that was just working on
Mm,
straight PR. The other parts of the business were public engagement, working on doing public meetings for government
mm,
entities and stuff like that. Um, and and that wasn't really my
yeah.
forte. And so I need sometimes I was handling 10 to 15 clients at a time, and yeah, and it just got to be a lot. And then at one point we grew so big that we were bigger than the office that
Mm,
we fit in. So we had a satellite office, and my I had a I was in the satellite office, and a lot of times I was there by myself, and I was just sitting. And I'm a collaborative person.
mhm,
Even this year has been rough, working on my own, learning how
yeah.
to do that. But at the time, it was just like, I need that collaboration back. I need the bouncing of ideas and the energy and all that stuff. And I was just feeling really, really burnt out and depressed. Um, and what really saved me was getting back into
Mhm,
DJing, and also, exercise, uh, and just realizing that you can't cover up other parts of your
mhm,
life or other things that are causing anxiety or depression. You can't cover that up by just throwing yourself
yeah.
into work. Works, you can't just work your way out of whatever you're
Mhm,
going through mental health wise. You do have to take a step back. And I did go, and I started going to
mm,
therapy, and that really helped me a
yeah.
lot too, because it helps you take a step back, um, assess what's really going on with you that's causing the
Yes.
burnout or causing you to work so much, which leads you to
Mhm,
burnout, um, and and get back to feeling more, at a level on a more even
yeah.
keel. Um, but it's all those things, and and I do have a fear of going back into that burnout
Mhm.
from time to time, but I think I've been good at finding that
The
keeping that
balance, yeah.
balance lately.
And you and I,
Yeah,
we've had
yeah,
conversations about ADHD, right? And
yeah.
especially as being entrepreneurs and creatives and doing that amidst ADHD. So are you someone who thrives more in structure or with spontaneity?
Definitely
Mhm.
spontaneity, I would say. Um, I'm a procrastinator. If you give me a deadline that's 2 months out, I'm not gonna do the work until a week out.
Even, like, for this, I was literally,
And that
like, prepping for this. I was doing very well about being really proactive with my podcast interviews, and then lately, I've just been, like, scrambling at the last minute. So, it was I think, you and I, we had talked earlier this week about rescheduling, and it was literally today while I was working, I was like, "I don't think I prepped his questions yet." So, it's like, "Yeah, I need to work on that before it's time to do the interview."
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something when you work with a team that you have to learn, like, other people don't work the same
Mhm.
way that you do sometimes. That's always been kind of one of my struggles as a professional. But I have never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I really definitely think I fall into that category. I just have a hard time concentrating on things and sticking to one thing and doing it. But when there's chaos, I feel like I thrive. Like I'm much more focused and I can get things done. I also think it goes back to my years as did 7 years as a waiter.
Mm. Oh my goodness.
And so it was always chaos, and it was always multitasking and trying to keep track of things in your head of,
Mhm.
this table needs this table needs this, and then I got to do it in this order. And I got to, maybe if I can do as much of it as I can at once, then can get it over with and move on to this other thing. And and yeah, that's just the way my brain works still to
Yes,
this day. I still have dreams of being a
and you
waiter
and you you
sometimes.
rearrange your home office studio, like, at least once a month, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm always rearranging my
I do the same thing.
I'm constantly
I
rearranging
was
this room.
literally today or yesterday, I was like, you know what? I think I wanna put my desk, like, against the
Y
wall and then, like, just kinda, like, set up, like, a little
Yeah.
studio space for the podcast, like, away from the desk. So, yeah, I'm constantly rearranging this room as well.
I I just I this latest iteration, I was like, this is it. This is what I've been wanting. This is it. And then that was a few months ago. And then just last week, I've been doing a lot of lives lately on TikTok. And I was like, you know what? I could just move this one little thing and make it a little better. So luckily it wasn't a whole rearrangement, but I just kind of moved where my computer rig was.
Yeah, we're the Tetris generation. We like to move things around, make them fit differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanna thank you for your time, and ask, is there, um, anything new you're working on? Anything we can look forward to from Ace Comms Consulting or from, some of the Soul what is it? I'm sorry, Soul and Sound and Soul presents?
As far as Ace goes, I'm trying to get back on my social media grind, as they say, trying to promote myself a little bit
Mhm,
more. Now that my goal when I started the business, you know, when when the business got started for me, I don't even really, it just came to me in a way, but it's been a year. But anyways, when I started, I literally, in this time, I've only applied for one job since the other business
mhm,
went under. And that's when I was like, okay, if I get this job, then obviously I'm gonna take it and do it. If I don't, then that's the universe telling me I have given you
mhm,
already what you need. You have 3 clients to
yeah,
start off with. You're making enough money. Go do it. You know. And I didn't get the job, and that's when I formed the LLC. And I told myself, you know what? I'm gonna give myself a year. I'm gonna commit to a
mhm,
year. If I get offered a job or something else happens, I'm not gonna take it, and I have been offered other
mhm,
jobs without applying actually, um, since then, but I stuck to it and I said, "No, I'm gonna make it to a year," even through a few months that weren't as busy as others,
mhm,
um, I have my core clients, but I still need to pick up a few other clients here and there, even if it's a one-off type of project in order to, just to maintain, my
What's
income level.
your ideal customer
Um
profile? Like, who's your target market? Who are you looking to help?
Really, mostly other local businesses, I
Mhm,
feel like. People who I feel like a lot of local businesses have good stories
mhm,
to tell. They just don't know how
mhm,
to tell them or who to tell them to. And I feel like I'm good at connecting those dots
nice.
for them. Um, and so, I've made it to a year now. Um, and even as we were approaching the year, this year, 2026 started off a little bit slow. I still have, 2 or 3 core clients, but even the work for them was a little slow. And I was thinking, I hope I don't get dropped or,
Mhm,
something like that. And now here we are, almost April, and things are really picking up. I'm working on a lot of new
nice.
projects, and and um, and so, I would say for people out there that are looking, anytime, a lot of times if you see local businesses on the news, look out for who provided the video
Mhm,
for them in the
nice.
credits, because a lot of times, sometimes, not every time, but a lot of times it might be me. I'm working with some local promoters, concert
Mhm,
promoters, to get them PR for their upcoming shows. I'm working with the Elmont, which is
mhm,
a resort here on the west side of town that has a swim club, and they bring big
mhm,
EDM DJs. They actually have a marketing company. One of the things that I've been really good with is filling in the gaps for other
mm,
marketing companies that don't have a PR side. um, you know, and they can handle all the paid marketing stuff, but you still
yeah,
need that PR element, that gives people a trust in your brand when you're on, regular local news or anything
mhm,
like that, or have partnerships with other local businesses that you can, leverage. And so that's where I can kind of fill the gaps for a lot of agencies. So I'm literally working with 2 or 3 other agencies that do stuff similar to what I do, but I'm filling in those
nice.
gaps for them. And that's one of the things I do for the Elmont. They have a big marketing company out of Houston that does all their marketing, and I'm just doing all the local stuff. So that, and then with Sound and Soul, um, we one of the things that we've been sort of talking about it's hard when you have 2 other partners to kind of get it took us 3 years to even come up with a name, first of all. Because from the beginning, I was like, "We need a name, like, something presents so that we can then have a separate Instagram account and get people that way and get people to our other gigs and make more
Mhm.
money, blah, blah, blah." But it took us that long just to come up with a name, and we're still kind of building that brand out
Mhm.
in a way. Uh, we also wanted to get into weddings and events and
Nice.
stuff like that, which we do on the side a little bit. Um, but I'm thinking now one of the next step now, in my opinion, I don't know what the other guys think is, but now that we have moved R&B Brunch to a new location on the east side, to take that leverage that we have from this event, it's gonna be our first event on
Mhm.
the east side, and by the looks of it, it might be one of our biggest
Mhm.
ones yet. To take that and then use that to start another kinda Sunday
Mhm.
party, another theme, but really brand it under
Yeah.
Sound and Soul so that we start to get that name out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to it. I'll definitely be continuing to support, and following the journey and all of the Instagram accounts. So, if all the information will be in the description, but definitely tell everybody where they can find you online.
Yeah, I mean, for my personal Chuy_Vuitton, just for personal stuff, DJ stuff, anytime you want to find me, find out where I'm DJing. For Ace, you can find us at acecomsconsulting.com or same thing on Instagram, acecomsconsulting, just all one word. And then Sound and Soul Presents on Instagram is um, Sound and Soul. Well, I don't even know that one. I think it's just Sound and
Mm.
Soul Presents, all spelled out as one word on there. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate you. And thank you for everyone who listened and watched. Have a good one.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Life doesn't always stay in perfect focus. There's magic in the blur we can't ignore. Every shadow, every highlight softly shows us who we are and who we're reaching for. When the world feels out of frame, every thought, every fear, every revelation, I find my way through the quiet flame, light in life and all the limitations.